Hello, this is Ariadne Rainbird, and today I'm going to talk about the last of Isidorus' hymns at the Temple of Isis-Hermouthis in Hermouthis. Isidorus' fourth hymn is inscribed on the north side of the eastern pillar, facing toward the temple of Hermouthis Isis. This hymn is often left out of the aretiologies because it's not actually a hymn in praise of the goddess, but rather it's a hymn in praise of the pharaoh Amenemhat III, referred to as Poramanres in the hymn, who built the original temple of Renenutet at Hermouthis. The hymn is written as a response to an unknown person inquiring about the founder of the temple. Isidorus cites Egyptian sources in his response, claiming to translate them for the benefit of the Greeks. The poem is written in Greek, in elegiac couplets and stanzas. Amenemhat was a popular pharaoh whose cult persisted into the Ptolemaic and Roman times, and thus he perhaps represented the idealised, legitimate king mentioned in the third hymn. He appears in depictions on walls of the original temple at Hermouthis, conducting rites at the foundations of the temple and making offerings to Renenutet and Sobek, as well as receiving blessings from them. The first line of the hymn asks who built this temple to Hermouthis, but subsequent lines expand her into a syncretic goddess, calling her highest Dio, Isis, Thesmophoros, and the inner sanctuary of the temple is likened to Mount Olympus. Her local consort, Sarconopis, and son, Anchaeos, are also referred to. The first verse of the hymn, therefore, encapsulates both the local and transcultural nature of the site. As Isidorus tells the story, he uses words such as "they say," suggesting a local oral tradition, but later in the hymn says that those who read the sacred letters, i.e. the priests, have told the tale, emphasising the truth of the stories that he communicated with birds who listened to him, and that he once gave orders to a crow. Isidorus ends by stating that having learned the stories of Amenemhat III with certainty from men who conduct researches into these things, he translated it all into Greek for outsiders who are unfamiliar with local tradition, and recorded everything in an inscription. Isidorus' story contains motifs which appear in demotic texts found on papyri from the villages of Phariah. A text by Aelian, De Natura Animalium, says that Egyptians told a story of Amenemhat honouring a crow with a tomb and funerary stela at Crocodilopolis. Demotic texts also tell of magical powers attained by other great figures from the pharaonic past. Isidorus goes on to explain that Amenemhat's powers come from his ancestry as son of the god Sobek, or Sukos. In an image on the back wall of the temple, Renenutet and Sobek greet Amenemhat as Sobek's son. Sobek is described in the hymn as the great, and the greatest, a forerunner of the title Trismegistus, or thrice powerful, which was later applied to Hermes Thoth. Amenemhat's human lineage is also given as son of Sesousis in Egyptian Senusret, who is described as having gone to the western heaven, the direction of the setting sun and Egyptian afterlife. Although Isidorus uses Greek poetic style, his sources for the content of the hymn are local knowledge and purely Egyptian. Isidorus, in his hymns, brings together different literary and religious traditions at the gates of the temple. He also presents different ways of looking at this mix of cultures. In the first hymn, he presents Isis as a universal goddess, but then focuses on Egypt and the land of the Nile. He describes a syncretic goddess worshipped in many lands, but whose true origins are in Egypt. The fourth hymn, however, presents native traditions translated into Greek for the benefit of foreign visitors. The second and third hymns give a middle ground, emphasising both Isis's universal nature as a multinational goddess, one who can be prayed to by all peoples for general blessings such as fertility and a good harvest, and her local aspect and immanence at the Temple of Hermouthis, describing local ritual practices and festivals, and Isis's role as judge of the merit of the local visitors to the temple. Isidorus mediates between religious syncretism and nativism, drawing from Greek and Egyptian literary styles and myth. His hymns are grounded in the local cult at the Temple of Hermouthis Isis and its history, but he also engages with and embraces the spread of the worship of Isis to far-off lands and her syncretism with other goddesses. I hope you found this video interesting. And before I go on to read the fourth hymn, if you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so that you'll be updated on any further videos that I do. I'm now going to read Isidorus' fourth hymn at the Temple of Isis-Hermouthis at Hermouthis. Who built this holy temple to greatest Hermouthis? What god remembered the all-holy one of the immortals? He marked out the sacred shrine as a high Olympus, for Dio highest, Isis-Hermouthis, for Anchois the sun, and the Agathos-Daimon, Soconopis. Immortals all he created a most fitting haven. A certain one, they say, was born a divine king of Egypt. He appeared on earth as lord of all the world, rich, righteous, and omnipotent. He had fame, yes, and virtue that rivalled the gods. For to him the earth and sea were obedient, and the streams of all the beautiful flowing rivers, and the breath of the winds and the sun which shows sweet light, and on his rising is visible to all. The races of winged creatures with one accord would listen to him, and he instructed all who heard his voice. The fact is clear that the birds obeyed him, as those who have read the sacred scriptures speak of this king once entrusting a written message to a crow, and she flew off with a letter bearing his utterance. It is so, for he was not a mortal man, nor was he the son of a mortal man, but as offspring of a god, great and eternal, even of Suchos, all-powerful, very great, omnipotent, and the Agathos-Daimon, he, the son, appeared on earth as a king. The maternal grandfather of this god is the distributor of life, Ammon, who is Zeus of Hellas and Asia. For this reason all things heard his voice, all things that move on earth, and the races of winged heavenly creatures. What was the name of this one? What ruler? What king? Of who of the immortals determined it? Why, the one who nurtured him, Seseusis, he who has gone to the western heaven, gave him a fair name, son of the golden sun. When the Egyptians say his name in their language, they call him Poromanres, the great, deathless. I've heard from others a miracle that is a riddle, how he navigated on the desert by wheels and sail, reliably learning these facts from men who study history. I myself have set them all up on inscribed pillars, and translated into Greek for Greeks the power of a prince who was a god, power such as no other mortal has possessed. Isidorus wrote it.